Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be going in depth into my week number 6 top 24 quarterback and tight end rankings for the 2023 fantasy football season. But before we could get into things, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying things, then please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure to leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter or X, please do so at NotoriousFantasy. So without further ado, let's get into my week number 6 quarterback and tight end rankings and tiers. We begin in the S tier with the quarterback position at number 1 with Josh Allen of the Buffalo Bills going up against the New York Football Giants at home on Sunday Night Football. Josh Allen has been a top 2 quarterback in back-to-back weeks and a top 8 quarterback in 4 games straight. Obviously, he struggled in week 1 against the Jets, but that's in the rearview mirror at this point in the season. Josh Allen currently ranks as the QB1 on the year, and he has a very easy matchup this week up against the Giants. I project greatness from Josh Allen in week 6. Moving to number 2, we got Jalen Hurts of the Philadelphia Eagles this week going up against the New York Jumbo Jets in New York. Now, while we did see that Jets defense give a lot of fits to Josh Allen, I really do think that's because it was a division rivalry matchup. I don't think the Jets defense is going to be as annoying and as much of a pest for Jalen Hurts. Ultimately, is this the best matchup on earth for the Philadelphia Eagles offense? Of course not, but at the end of the day, I still think Jalen Hurts will get it done. He's been a top 9 quarterback in 4 straight weeks, and based upon his rushing upside, this guy could even be the quarterback 1 in the toughest of matchups. At number 3, we got Tua Tagovailoa of the Miami Dolphins going up against the Carolina Panthers at home in Miami. Last week, quarterback 12 up against the Giants, currently the quarterback 7 on the season. Another guy with a wet dream matchup this week. I definitely think Tua Tagovailoa has the upside to be the QB1, and all of these quarterbacks that are ranked inside the S tier are the guys who I believe are most likely to be the quarterback 1 at the end of the week. To close out the S tier, we got Justin Fields of the Chicago Bears going up against the cold like Minnesota Vikings at home in Soldier Field. Quarterback 1 and 3 over the last 2 weeks. Now, the season started off as a complete and utter fucking disaster for the Bears and Justin Fields. Fields looked like Stevie Wonder in the pocket, but recently he got LASIK eye surgery like his name was famous Jameis Winston, and he has been seeing the field incredibly clearly. He has looked downright incredible over the last 2 weeks. Now, I get it's against the Commanders and the Denver Broncos, but this week is yet another lay-up matchup. It's not like he's going up against the Saints or a tough defense like the Cleveland Browns. This is the Minnesota Vikings defense, a game in which Justin Fields should be able to put up yet another great performance. Next up, we move to the A tier. These guys are just a slight step below the guys in the S tier. At number 5, we got Lamar Jackson of the Baltimore Ravens going up against the Tennessee Titans in London. Quarterback 20 last week, but that really wasn't Lamar Jackson's fault, as if you go back and watch the tape, the wide receivers couldn't catch a fucking cold there for the Baltimore Ravens. This feels like a bounce back spot up against the Titans defense that is absolute dick cheese. I think even though the game is in London, and that does give me some worries, right? Because whenever the game is overseas, the crazy shit happens, right? If this game was in Tennessee, it's technically at Tennessee, then I think the Baltimore Ravens would run train here. The fact that it's in London does worry me slightly, but at the end of the day, the receivers just can't be that bad yet again for the Ravens. Maybe they can, but I wouldn't think so. I think the Ravens bounce back here. They looked like just so bad against the Pittsburgh Steelers. This has to be a bounce back spot in London. At number 6, we got Kirk O'Chains of the Minnesota Vikings going up against the Chicago Bears in Chicago. Bit of a, not really a down game, pretty average game for Kirk Cousins last week against the Chiefs. Obviously, the refs doing their best to help the Chiefs as per usual. Kirk is going to be without Justin Jefferson, so we're going to see a lot more KJ Osborne, Jordan Addison-Ray, as well as TJ Hawkinson. Ultimately here, this feels like another great matchup for Kirk Cousins, but I'm going to be honest with you, if the Vikings lose this game, I think there's a chance that Kirk Cousins is on a different team in a couple of weeks. At number 7, we got Justin Herbert, the pervert of the LA Chargers, going up against the Dallas Cowboys on Monday Night Football. Now, obviously, going up against the Dallas Cowboys defense isn't some cupcake matchup, right? The Dallas Cowboys defense is solid. But we've seen the Dallas Cowboys defense crumble like a cookie in multiple occasions this season, and even up against the Arizona Cardinals. Now, I don't think the Cowboys are going to full-on let down in this matchup, but I do think this one has the upside to be a higher scoring game. Justin Herbert has been a top 12 quarterback in all 4 games this season. Last week, the team was on a bye, so I am going to put my belief in Justin Herbert doing good yet again. Right? The matchup against Dallas doesn't scream, oh my God, Justin Herbert, the pervert's gonna go crazy. But I do really think that regardless of the matchup at this point in the season, even without Mike Williams, we need to be confident in Herbert. At number 8, we got Joe Burrow, Joe Shiesty going up against the Seattle Seahawks. Now, there are some questions with Joe Burrow, and really just one main question, right? Last week, he was able to absolutely slaughter the Arizona Cardinals defense as the quarterback 8, but the question is, can he do it up against a defense that is somewhat competent? To me, I think the answer would be yes, because it seems like in practice this week, all of those braces, all of those sleeves he was wearing on his leg that was fucked up seem to be gone. Again, am I 100% confident in Joe Burrow that he is 100% back? No. But he seemed so much more confident last week in the pocket. He was moving so much better. I think it was a mental thing matched with the injury that was leading to Joe Burrow just being a disaster for the first 4 weeks of the season. So I'm going to believe strongly that he is actually back at this point in the season. Next up, we move to the B tier with quarterbacks 9 through 11. At number 9, we got Matthew Stafford of the LA Rams going up against the Arizona Cardinals at home in LA. Now, Matthew Stafford has yet to really have a phenomenal game this season where he throws 3+ touchdowns, but with Cooper Kupp being back and Puka Nacua looking like the second coming of Cooper Kupp, so they've just got 2 Cooper Kupps out there. You'll love to see it if you're a Rams fan. Seems like the recipe for success for Stafford. This is the easiest or one of the easiest matchups a quarterback could have. So, all steam ahead for Stafford having a very solid game. At number 10, we have Trevor Lawrence. Now, Trevor Lawrence's first go against the Colts, kind of crazy that they've already going to be playing twice this season through the first 6 weeks. He was the quarterback 8. That was week 1. The man was surgical in the first half. He was slicing the defense up like his name was O.J. Simpson. And then the second half, he was flopping like a goddamn fish out of water. I think this is his true get-right game. Now, the team has looked good over the last 2 weeks, but Trevor Lawrence hasn't thrown more than 1 touchdown since that matchup against the Colts. So, with that said, since Lawrence isn't out here running for 70+ yards a game, he has been kind of a flop for fantasy. Quarterback 16, 19, 32, and 8 this season. To me, this feels like the game where the tide completely shifts up against a subpar Colts defense. At number 11 to close out the B tier, we got Jared Goff, the Goffinator, going up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Tampa Bay. Now, this matchup doesn't scream out to me that this should be the biggest Jared Goff game. Last week, he was the quarterback 4. He had a game against Seattle earlier on the season where he was the quarterback 6. This doesn't feel like that top 8-ish game for Jared Goff. But based upon the weapons core that he has around him, and based upon how good Jared Goff has looked this season, even in matchups that I deem a little bit more rough, right? This isn't the safest of matchup for Goff. I just believe heavily in the Lions offense. And I believe that Jared Goff is greatly improved from what we've seen early on in his career. Next up, we move to the C tier. This is the tier where we get to the point where it's like, okay, after this, the quarterback situation gets way more risky, in my opinion, right? Geno Smith of the Seattle Seahawks. Now, this isn't the tier where it gets risky. It's the next tier of the Seattle Seahawks going up against the Cincinnati Bengals in Cincinnati. If you've enjoyed this far, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Now, all season long, if you're just looking at the fantasy stats, Geno Smith has been a pretty big disappointment, right? Starting off the season as the quarterback 25, then quarterback 8, 17, and 26. Now, he did get hurt up against the Giants, and I think that did affect his play at the end of the game when he came in. He's coming off of the bye week, so I expect the injury to not be something that is greatly bothering him. Now, the Cincinnati Bengals defense has been looking better as the season went along, and I hope that the Bengals defense shows up in the long run of the season because I think the Bengals are a team that could contend for the Super Bowl. But at the end of the day, they haven't looked like a polished product, and this Seattle offense has so much boom, boom, firepower like you're at the fucking Night at the Museum with Ben Stiller. So, again, my confidence level in Geno Smith isn't overwhelmingly high because he has been very hit or miss. But I don't think the stats on the year are very telling of Geno Smith being over the hump or Geno Smith being washed in any way. I think Geno's a very competent NFL quarterback, and I think this game has the makings of a tit-for-tat, high-scoring, back-and-forth, rock'em sock'em robots matchup that could lead to Geno Smith having a much bigger game. At quarterback 13, we got Big Cock Brock of the San Francisco 49ers going up against the Cleveland Browns in Cleveland. This is probably going to be one of the lower spots we have Brock Purdy ranked at going forward. He feels like a locked and loaded top 12 quarterback every single week, but you have to take matchups into consideration, right? Even when you are this elite offense like the 49ers that is just wiping their ass with every single defense, the Browns defense is, in my opinion, one of the better ones in the NFL. Now, Brock Purdy did just shit all over Cleveland Steamer, the Dallas Cowboys, who have one of the better defenses in the NFL, throwing 4 touchdowns, quarterback 7 last week. So I'm not in full-on panic, duck, and cover for Big Cock Brock Purdy here, but I'll note, this matchup doesn't scream Purdy's biggest game. At number 14, we got Sam Howell of the Washington Commanders going up against the Atlanta Falcons in Hotlanta. Quarterback 5 last week up against the Bears in a losing effort. This guy's been a top 14 quarterback every single game outside of that disastrous performance up against the Bills. I don't think it's time to give Sam Howell his flowers and say that this guy is the Commanders franchise guy. I think it's safe to say that with Eric Bieniemy as the offensive coordinator, Sam Howell deserves his flowers as a start-worthy fantasy football quarterback every single week with, like we saw last week, tremendous upside. I mean, I get that he doesn't have these receivers that Brock Purdy has, but it's not like Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel, Jahan Dotson, Logan Thomas. I know it's like the fucking great value, the Walmart brand of what the 49ers have, but those are some pretty solid weapons at Sam Howell's disposal. Moving now to the D tier at the quarterback position, we move to quarterback 15. Now, this is where it starts to get to, like, you really probably don't want to be starting these guys, but you might have to. After this tier is where it starts to get really gross. Like, I'm pretty gross. Like, I love CJ Stroud. This matchup feels really gross. And then Dak is quarterback 16. The matchup's great. Wet dream. Like, you're just fucking salivating, thinking about, oh my God, he gets to play the Chargers. But without Dak's look this season, I'm not as confident in that. Quarterback 17 last week for Stroud. This man is yet to throw an interception all season. It feels like that is going to come to an end here against the Saints. Now, I'm not trying to jinx anything. I'm a big CJ Stroud fan. This is a guy that has greatly just eviscerated, just destroyed my expectations of him. I thought this Texans offense would be better from going from Davis Money Mills, the giraffe neck bastard, to CJ Stroud, but this is like a full 180. This is just a whole nother level to what I thought they would be. But again, this is a Saints defense that will smother even great offenses, I would think. Not like the Patriots are a great offense, right? They got skull-fucked by the Saints last week, but Stroud, I think he's going to be decent. I think he has the upside to be like a top 12 guy, but this feels like quarterback 15 to 20 type of range for Stroud this week. At number 16, we got Dak Prescott going up against the LA Chargers in LA. Now, expert consensus rankings on Fantasy Pros have him as the quarterback 12. Frankly, I just do not trust him. I don't trust him. He's yet to finish inside the top 12 at the quarterback position all year, and he hasn't been on a bye, and he's the quarterback 21 on the season. In easy matchups, he's even been bad. Like against the Arizona Cardinals, he shit the bed. Now I get, this is a 5-star matchup. Fucking Grand Theft Auto, right? But I still have my worries. I hope Dak looks good. I really do. But this man threw 3 fucking picks against the 49ers. I get the 49ers defense is on another level from the Chargers. But I'm worried. I'm really worried about Dak Prescott. Next up, we move to the E tier. As you can see, real step down here. Quarterback 17 through 20. Now, I don't mean to shit on Baker because Baker's actually been pretty reliable this season. Quarterback 13, 18, 25, and 7 in his last go up against that tougher Saints defense. 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Baker's a guy that also deserves his flowers, right? There were a lot of people shitting on Baker. There were a lot of people that thought the Bucs were to be a bottom feeder franchise this season, and the Bucs have been really good. They get the Lions. Not a great matchup. The Lions, like the Bengals, have improved greatly from the beginning of the season on the defensive front. Now, Baker has a lot of weapons at his disposal. Chris Godwin, Mike Evans should be suiting up. They've got Cade Otton, Trey Palmer, Rashad with 2 A's, White. So I don't think this is going to be Baker's worst game like against the Eagles, but this just feels like a middling quarterback 15 to 20-ish performance. At number 18, we got Josh Dobbs, who shit the bed, in my opinion, against the Bengals, right? I really did think that was going to be a bigger game for him. He gets the Rams this week in LA, a division rivalry game. This feels like not the beginning of the end for Dobbs, because I think he's a frisky quarterback in any given game. Like, it wouldn't be that crazy with how the Rams defense has played recently if the Cardinals are somehow in this towards the end of the game, because of how good Hollywood Brown has looked, and Zach Ertz has just turned the fucking clock backwards, and DeMarcado, the Italian stallion running back, I don't think Ingram looks that good, but they have some players. They've got some guys. This just feels like kind of my hopes are high because I still think he's good enough, but I think the Rams are ultimately going to be able to contain a lot of what Josh Dobbs does. At number 19, we got Bryce Young going up against the Dolphins in Miami. Bryce Young showed out last week against the Lions. Quarterback 9 on the week. Give him a nice round of applause. Best game by far in the season. Now this is yet another great matchup for Bryce Young. The problemo here is that Bryce Young hasn't really been consistent this season. He's been consistently mid. So even in this great matchup, I kind of have to see it for a couple more games before I start really believing it, if I'm being honest. Close out the E-tier, Gardner Minshew going up against the Jags, a revenge game in Jacksonville. He closed out that Jags game in week 1 after Anthony Richardson came out of the game with 2 attempts for 0 completions. Gardner Minshew, I've said this all week long, is good enough for the Colts to upset the Jaguars, but he's not going to play good enough to be a start-worthy fantasy option. He's good enough to protect the football, not make some boneheaded decisions and fuck everything up, but he's not good enough to put the team on his back like his name was Marshawn Lynch and carry the Colts to the win, right? He's going to be able to do enough to win, but not enough to put the backpack on like he's Dora, the Explorer. Closing things out at the quarterback position, the F tier with Derek Carr of the New Orleans Saints going up against the Texans in Houston. I get the Texans defense isn't fantastic, Mr. Fantastic, but Derek Carr just hasn't shown me anything this season. He looked okay against the Patriots and looked okay against the Titans, but outside of that, he's been quite bad, right? So that's just all I'm really going to say about it. I don't know what else to say. He's been disappointing this season, and I think Saints fans would agree. At number 22, we got the Italian stallion, Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Pornstar, Jimmy Guap, Jimmy G-Spot, quarterback 19 last week against the Packers. I think we're almost at a point where we're going to have to start ranking Jimmy G a little bit higher. Patriots defense, revenge game. The Patriots defense is a shell of what we thought they were going to be entering into the season because they are just banged up everywhere. And I think Jimmy Garoppolo is going to look decent here. He's probably a safer option than Derek Carr, but we know Jimmy Garoppolo's upside. Like, he's not going to have just a random top 5 game out of nowhere, even with the weapons he's got on that team. And Jimmy also will just do something really stupid in the game, where even against the Patriots, like, would it shock anyone if you threw like 2 touchdowns, he had 4 interceptions somehow, and the Raiders still won? Like, that wouldn't be that shocking. Number 23, the Riddler, Desmond Ridder, going up against the Commanders at home in Atlanta. But before we talk about Desmond Ridder and then move into the tight end position, I would like to give you guys a quick word for our friends and our sponsor over at Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is the best place to play NFL Pick'em in the whole entire universe. Underdog has a great offer for you guys today that we're going to be talking about in just a couple of seconds. If you're new to Underdog Fantasy's Pick'em game, I will explain to you how it works very quickly. So you have to make at least 2 picks. So for our first pick here, we're going to go with Lamar Jackson higher than 225.5 passing yards in London on 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Sunday. You have to have at least 2 picks and 1 from each team. So we are going to go ahead and match that with DeAndre Hopkins higher than 5 receptions. I think that the Titans are going to be throwing the ball a lot in this one, and I think DeAndre Hopkins is going to be a benefactor of that. Now, is he going to have the biggest fantasy day? I'm not sure, but I think he's going to get 5 receptions in this one. If you have 2 picks in your slip, it will be 3 times your entry fee if both hit. If you do 3 picks, it is 6 times, 4 picks is 10 times, and 5 picks is 20 times your entry fee. Obviously, all of them have to hit for you to get paid out. If you are new to Underdog Fantasy and live on one of these states that are on your screen right now and use promo code Notorious, you will get a first match deposit bonus of up to $100. If you deposit $100, they give you an additional $100, $50, additional $50, $25, an additional $25. The minimum deposit on Underdog is $10. If you have a gambling problem, please make sure that you call 1-800-GAMBLER. Back on into things, Ritter against the Commanders. Ritter has looked good twice this season, I would say, and outside of that, he's just been pretty bad. You never really know which version of Ritter you're going to get, and you really also never know how much the Falcons are really going to commit to actually running the rock. They do love to run the ball, but last week, for some reason, they tried to just feed Algier more than Bijan, which just doesn't make any sense. Look, I'll give Ritter some credit. In really easy matchups, he can be good, and that would be this week. But I just don't trust it enough to rank him higher. To close things out, quarterback 24, Tannehill, going up against the Ravens in London. This is just where Tannehill is at every week. Quarterback 24. Around that range. That's why he's ranked here. Moving now to the tight end position. Again, if you guys have enjoyed this far, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button down below. Moving now to the tight ends here in the S tier. Very simple. Obviously, Travis Kelce already played. Otherwise, he'd be the number 1 tight end. We got TJ Hawkinson going up against the Bears in Chicago. 2 down weeks for Hawkinson outside the top 12 at tight end. But are you really going to jump ship on Hawkinson and rank him severely lower after 2 shit games, knowing now that Justin Jefferson isn't there and knowing that he's playing the Bears? The answer should be fuck no, baby. At number 2, we got Mark Andrews going up against the Tennessee Titans in London. Down-ish game for him last week as the tight end number 11. But again, the Ravens kind of suffered from a case of dropitis, and they just shit the bed against the Steelers. Typical game for the Ravens versus the Steelers. Just a very bad, bad football all around. Now they get the Titans, pass funnel defense, one of the worst defenses at defending tight ends. You already know what to do with Mark Andrews, right? If you had Mark Andrews, you didn't even need to, or Hawkinson, you didn't even need to watch this part of the video. Same thing goes for the guys in the A tier. Sam Laporta going up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, Laporta is officially listed as questionable for Sunday with a calf injury, something to follow. Moving up until the Sunday slate of games. If he does play, though, he's been a top 8 tight end in 4 of 5 games. This guy has clearly proven to us that even in his rookie year, he is going to be great. I'll show you how great I am. 3 touchdowns on the season, 2 tugs last week on a fantastic play drawn up from Dan Campbell or Ben Johnson. I assume probably Ben Johnson. But again, Laporta, when he plays, you play him with confidence. At number 4, Easy Evan Ingram. Last week was a down game, tight end 20. Prior to that, though, a top 7 tight end in the first 4 games of the season. Tight end 5 in week 1 up against the Colts. He has yet to score 1 touchdown yet on the season, and I would argue that he's due this week against the Colts. At number 5, we have George Kittle Timbers of the 49ers going up against the Browns in Cleveland. Not the best matchup, but again, the thing about George Kittle that I don't think a lot of people really, truly understood until this season was that Kittle has always been boom or bust. Kittle's the type of guy to score 4 points 1 week, then you try to get cute. You're like, oh my God, Kittle shit the bed. I gotta sit him. You sit him. You play some other fucking garbage tight end, and then Kittle scores 28 points like he did last week against Dallas. Kittle is boom or bust. Tight end 26, 32, 3, 45, 1. But you can't ever sit him because the upside is so high. Moving now to the B tier. All of these tight ends are just straight up must starts. Logan Thomas going up against the Atlanta Falcons in Atlanta. Top 12 tight end in 3 of 4 games on the season. Missed against Buffalo with that concussion. Better off anyways because the Commanders did not work. They could not get it up against the Bills. Despite missing 1 game, tight end 11 on the season. Solid matchup against Atlanta. He's been proven to be a decent target in this offense. He's a red zone threat. And at this point in the season, which might sound crazy, right? Entering into the season that you'd rank Logan Thomas this high, just look at the stats. Watch the games. Logan Thomas deserves this. At number 7, we got Dallas Goedert. A lot of people were ready to jump ship on Dallas Goedert last week. Nick, should I cut Dallas Goedert? Oh my God, Dallas Goedert's been shit all season. I said, don't cut him. Don't worry. Now, might you want to bench him soon? Maybe. But tight end 2 last week. This guy is the number 1 tight end on one of the best offenses in the NFL. I know there's going to be down games for him, but this is a guy that can get 7+ targets any week. The Jets defense might be rock solid, but they're not the best against the tight end. Feels like another good Dallas Goedert game. At number 8, we got the Walrus, Darren Waller, going up against the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo with a, my groin. Shout out to footballers. Going up against the Bills. Questionable to play with that groin. Tight end 7 last week against Miami. We are going to see Tyrod Taylor revenge game this week. Hi, God. Taylor. Look, I don't trust Tyrod Taylor worth anything, but I don't trust Daniel Jones either. So, Darren Waller might even get a boost up here against the Bills. Moving now to the C tier, and the Bills, not the best against the tight end either. The C tier, these are all guys that you're probably still just starting. Right? These are all guys that basically every week are always in your lineup. Tight end number 9, Cole Kmet, going up against the Vikings at home in Chicago. Tight end 9-1 over the last 2 weeks. When the Bears are good, Justin Fields likes to feed Cole Kmet in the end zone. 3 touchdowns over the last 2 games. This is a great game that could be very high scoring. Kirk Chainz versus Justin Fields, and that could lead to a very high scoring environment for Cole Kmet's fantasy output. Next, we move to the tight end number 10, going up against the LA Chargers in LA. Down game for Ferguson last week, but it was a down week for the whole offense against the 49ers. Prior to that, 3 straight weeks inside of the top 12, 7 or more targets in 3 of 5 games. In the red zone, Ferguson is a massive target for Mr. Dak Prescott. I know we kind of talked negatively about Dak Prescott, but Dak Prescott doesn't need to be Mahomes to give Jake Ferguson a couple of accurate targets. At number 11, we got Zach Ertz going up against the LA Rams in LA. A great matchup for the tight end position. Ertz, just like Logan Thomas, it's kind of crazy to say in the year 2023, these are guys that are just kind of locks to be in your lineup. But that has been the case this season. Even last week, in a doozy of a game for the Cardinals, Ertz scores a touchdown and is a start-worthy tight end. This week, again, great matchup against the Rams. So I like Ertz. And it really is crazy to say. At number 12, moving to Dalton Schultz, going up against the New Orleans Saints at home in Houston. Tight end 6 in back-to-back weeks. Will he be able to keep it up? I'm not too sure against this Saints defense. But he's earned my respect enough to be a top 12 tight end in the rankings. Moving now to the D tier. This is where things start to really patter off. Tight end 8 last week. Kyle Pitts, tight end 13 for me on the rankings this week against a putrid Commanders defense. Please keep feeding Kyle Pitts. 11 targets, 7 receptions, 87 yards. But a blind squirrel does find a nut every once in a while. We'll see if this can actually be repeatable. At number 14, Tyler Higbee going up against the Arizona Cardinals. With Cooper Kupp back, that does kind of cuck Tyler Higbee out of targets, but it should boost his touchdown upside, because the offense will be able to move silky smooth through the defense, especially of the Cardinals. So again, I'm starting to panic on Higbee a little bit, but this week isn't time to bench him. At number 15, we got Jonnu Smith. So 2 Atlanta Falcons tight ends in the top 15. Now, Pitts, to me, has way more upside because he is just way better than Jonnu Smith. But Jonnu Smith has been a top 18 tight end in 4 straight weeks, and he was the tight end 3 in week 4. So again, while it might sound gross to start Jonnu Smith, the second tight end on the Falcons actually love the tight end. The problem is it's not necessarily always Kyle Pitts. Moving now to the E tier, number 16, David Njoku. Now, if anyone saw that picture of David Njoku, it is a straight-up shock to me that he was able to play against the Ravens. Crazy. Prayers up to David Njoku. That's crazy. And I'm just glad he's okay. And he appears to be able to play. Face and hands still listed questionable. I believe he is going to play because he did play prior to the bye. I don't know what's up with Deshaun Watson. Torn, his rotator cuff's fucked up. I don't know. I don't think it's torn. There's some type of injury. Again, I'm as much of a doctor as Johnny Sins. I always say this. I don't know. He might be scared. His pussy hurts or something. I don't know. I've said I don't know like 5 different times in this sentence. But tight end 11 against the Ravens. They're not going with DTR. They're going to go with PJ Walker, XFL legend. My confidence in Njoku is starting to dwindle, but I think PJ Walker might give him enough targets for him to be fine. At number 17, we got Conklin going up against the Eagles. The Eagles are actually a great matchup against tight end. The problem is Conklin's quarterback is Zach Wilson, though I will give him some credit. Tight end 13 and 16 over the last 2 weeks. Conklin was really involved in the Jets offense last season, so it shouldn't be that surprising, really, that Conklin's been this involved this year. Eagles defense on paper, very good, but they are missing some pieces in this game that I think makes it slightly more competitive, even though we know the Eagles are winning this one. So again, with Conklin, it's like you play him, you hope he's a top 18 tight end so he doesn't sink your fantasy battleship. At number 18, Hunter Henry. I want to throw him down further, but I simply can't because the other tight ends ranked below this are just way worse. Henry's a really talented player, just a prisoner of the situation that he is in. The Patriots offense is limp dick. They cannot get it up. They are in dire need of a Viagra, and I don't think they sell Viagras in Vegas, which they obviously do, but they need one. Wouldn't shock me if Mac Jones gets benched in this game. I'm keeping it 100. I really think he might get benched. Moving now to the F tier. If you're starting these guys, it's like, fuck, man. This is bad. 19, Gerald Everett going up against the Cowboys at home in LA. Should have more upside without Mike Williams, but was barely involved up against the Raiders last time out in week 4. Not a great matchup against Dallas. Number 20, Kincaid. Kind of just done with Kincaid at this point. Going up against the Giants this week, listed as questionable with the concussion. It's just that Dawson Knox and him just eat too much into each other's workload to really feel confident in either of them. Tight end 21, can you do something for me? Chig going up against the Ravens in London. Tight end 17 last week actually was heavily targeted in that game, but again, you can't really rely on this Titans passing attack. Moving now to the G tier, the G spot. Tight end 22, Cade Otton. I've talked about this a bunch this season. Otton's a guy that if he was on a different team where he didn't have Mike Evans and Godwin around him, you'd probably be starting Cade Otton every single week, but since there's so much competition, he lands outside the top 20. At number 23, we got Dawson Knox one time. If you are with me, going up against the Giants, wrist, questionable, jerking off too much, has a bit of a wrist injury, a weak wrist, as they would say. Funny story, I doubt my friend is watching this video, but a couple of years ago, I went to my friend's granddad's funeral. Very sad, obviously, and I went to shake my friend's dad's hand, and my, like, fucking wrist got, like, messed up. I don't know what the fuck happened. I was like, oh, I just got some weak wrists, right? Like, as a joke. But to his dad, I said, I got weak wrists or whatever. And I just looked like such a fucking idiot. I was like, that at that point, it was bad. It was brutal. But it was very funny. So that's why I brought it up. Maybe you guys don't find it funny. I don't even think there's really any. There's probably, like, maybe 3 people watching. Like, 3,000-ish people probably watched this video. There are probably 3 people that made it this far, right? The Dawson Knox truthers or the Hayden Hurst guys. So number 24, Hayden Hurst going up against the Dolphins. Week 1, said it a bunch, Fugazi. Great game against Atlanta. Tight end 2, outside of that, has not been inside the top 20 since. So tight end 24 feels a little bit fair, though, because of the matchups. Thank you guys all so much for watching. If you did end up enjoying, hit that subscribe button down below. Hit that like button. It does help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter, please do so at NotoriousFantasy. I love all you guys so much. Hope you have a great guys' day. And as always, good boy.